Shalom. This is Arya Ben Yasharallah there in Lions Den Camp. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Father, and to the Son, in the Paleo Hebrew tongue. Very, very important. Call Halayim La, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Ha, Rakha, Kodash, Ma'amath. A double honors to the elders and apostle of Great Millstone, who rule well and teach well. A double honor to my elder apostle as well, a hard one by Yasharallah down here in the Lions Den Camp. And a sincere the water to the Akim, the Akwathim, and the Banyam, the brothers, the sisters, and the children who are pushing the truth, pushing the truth and believing with sincerity. The water in Shalom. This is Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16. For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. All right, I brought this out because as I was sitting by the river thinking about what lesson I was going to do, an old man walked up to me and said, "Hey, yo, I'm an old man. My wife is heavy and I can't pick her up. Can you help me?" I said, "All right, cool." Walked to the apartment, lady on the floor. I'm like, okay, this is no big. Like, she big, but she not that big. Like, it's cool. All right, bet. And so she's like, yeah, I'm just real dizzy. I just can't get up. I was like, all right, that's cool. All right. We're going to grab you. We're going to pick you up, ma'am. And she was like, I can't move. I'm so dizzy. I'm like, all right, that's cool. But we got to move you. You got to get up. So have it in your head to get. I'm not going to do an entire play-by-play because, I'm not going to do an entire play-by-play. But the overall thing was she just kept calling on Jesus. It was crazy. The whole time she just kept calling on Jesus. She was like, he put me down here. He gonna get me up. And I'm in my head, I'm like, he's not gonna get you up. He's not gonna get you up. The reason why I brought out this scripture is because I quoted it because she just had such a negative Nancy attitude, and she wasn't mean or anything like that. She was just an old lady, but at the same time, her soul was gone. Her mind, not saying she had schizophrenia or anything, but her mind was gone. She just kept calling on Jesus. She just kept saying, he gonna get me up. And the whole time I'm like, no, he not. All right. As she was just pretty much leaning on me, and I was just sitting there looking around the house. It was super festive, super decked out, and Christmas decorations and stuff like that. And she kept calling on Jesus, and eventually I had to step in because I was like, okay. I was like, hey man, he got a real name. And then she said Emmanuel, which I thought was crazy. I thought she was gonna say Yeshua or some shit like that. But she said Emmanuel, and I was like, no, it's Yahawashi, it's Hebrew. Came from the Father to the angel to Mary, and that's what she named him. And she didn't really care about that. She just kept calling on Jesus. I was like, all right, well, but I quoted this scripture to her, and I was like, because she had it in her head that she wasn't gonna get up, and at first she didn't want to call rescue. She didn't want her husband to call 911 because it was embarrassing, and I that's understandable. So when I went in there with a positive attitude. I was like, all right, ma'am, have it in your head that you're gonna get up. And then as we're in the process of trying to get her up, she was laughing and kikiing with the husband, like, I should say the husband made a little joke that he was like, yeah, she called me from another room. She was like, well, I'm going down. And they both kind of chuckled. And they both kind of chuckled. And at that moment, I said to the woman, I was like, the same way you knew you were going down, have it in your mind that you're going to get up by your own legs. And she was like, all right. And she would say that, but based on her actions, she wasn't trying to get up. Like she really wasn't trying to get up. And it was Matter of fact, let me get that scripture. This is Hebrews chapter 10, verse 31. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power. And I brought this out because the whole time I was thinking, well, not the whole time, but I just had a thought that physically, I was watching physically what her spirit was doing. You know, like just not getting up, not getting out of the darkness, groping around in the darkness. Because even though she didn't say that she wanted to get up. She said, Jesus is gonna get me up. That's what she was saying. She wasn't saying, all right, I got to get up. And when I first came in there, I was like, you want to get up, you got stuff to do. She was like, yeah. And with her mouth, she said it, just like the scripture. I'm about to let me get that. This is Isaiah chapter 29, verse 13. Wherefore the Lord Yahawah said, for as much as this people draw near, it's like you draw near me with their mouth. And that's what she was doing. Well, trying to do. And with their lips do honor me. That's what she was trying to do. But have removed their heart far from me. And their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. Bro, she kept calling on Jesus. That shit was so lame. It was like, bro, while she was touching me, I was like, bro, that shit's nasty. But it's like, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the Lord, man. Her body was physically doing what her spirit was doing. Just not getting up. She was content on sitting there. And then when she told her husband to call rescue, he was like, oh, you want to call rescue now? Because as he and I were walking in, he said, that he wanted to call rescue. And I said to him, no, that's kind of embarrassing. Women have their pride as well. And he was like, yeah, that's exactly what she said. Not the pride part, but yeah, she is embarrassing. So he was like, oh, now you want to call rescue. And he just kind of had his phone out and didn't really do it. And then she was like insisting, yeah, go ahead, call rescue. But, and then I was like, you're just gonna have to, I'm eventually have to let you go. You're just gonna lay here. She was like, I don't want to lay here. I don't want to lay down dirty kitchen. I'm like, well, you don't want to get up. I'm out here, And as I'm as I'm recording this video now, doing the lesson that I was doing the lesson, I'm standing by the river and I'm watching the ambulance, paramedics and stuff go into the apartment and I guess help her up and whatever. And she's more than likely gonna go to the hospital, get messed up even more, But that's where the empathy comes in, as much as she thought she was worshiping the Lord, she really wasn't. She deep into the Christmas, deep into the Christmas. It was super festive, super duper festive, But I'm gonna reread this, Isaiah chapter 29, verse 13. Wherefore the Lord said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. Another thing that happened while I was there is she said, hey, yo, call Marty. And the husband was like, all right, got you. Call Marty. Call Marty. And Marty didn't pick up, but the answering machine was, hello, good, thank you, and the Lord is. I was like, oh shit, motherfucker, you got that super Christian. That shit was that joint was funny. That joint was funny. She's like, all right, well, call somebody else. And I forgot the person's name. My bad for saying person's name, but whatever. But So yeah, called the other person, ain't pick up. And then she was like, oh, I'm just so dizzy, Jesus gonna get me up, da 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 da. And I said to her, I was like, the Lord already helped you. Like I gave her the name Yahawashi, but I didn't give her the name Yahawah. But I was like, Yahawashi already helped you. He already put strength in you. You just gotta move your legs. And she started moving her legs. I was like, now put them up underneath you and get up. And she was like, oh no, I just gotta. And she kept praying to Jesus. I don't even want to keep saying the name, but she was like, yeah, I just gotta. Oh. And I thought she was like fading in and out of consciousness. That's why I was kind of like being slow with her. But I was like, yeah, she keeps fading in and out of consciousness. And I said that to her husband. She was like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I'm really trying to help her out. But she would rather sit in her folly. She would rather just not get up. So, but matter let me get my next scripture. This is Isaiah chapter 32, verse 2. It says, and a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. I had this scripture on my lob as well, because I don't know what she was leaning on. She was just kind of slumped over when I walked in there, slumped over on like a little chair or something. But when I got there, she wasn't really acknowledging me, but she was taking my, I don't say she's taking my, she was taking my help. And eventually she just started leaning on me. And I was just like, all right, it's cool. But she wouldn't take my words, But this scripture came to mind because, Lord willing, I be a man in that time. Lord willing, I be a man in that time. This is what I was thinking, because what's the name? Our elder, R1, he said that, in times of, famine and pestilence and stuff like that, when Jacob's trouble really crank up, a superhero is going to be somebody who just, walk up the stairs. Because, you got to think, 2020, lockdown, H sound on the J, like jalapeno, hob, hob. So, everybody got it. Everybody got it. So, and, she probably did, for all I know, but, we really have to, matter of fact, let me go back to that scripture. Proverbs 24:16, for a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. Right, and that's what that woman fell into. She fell into mischief. All right. The festivities of Christmas, the belief on Yahawashi rather than going into the Hebrew, going into the truth of things, because eventually she was like, help me Jesus, or whatever you look like. She said that, and then after I said the words, the Lord already helped you. He got the strength in you, and you got the strength in you to get up. Later on in the conversation, she was like, I just need Jesus to get me up. He already gave me the strength, but I just need him to get this dizziness off of me. I know he can. I was like, okay, now it's the dizziness. All right, man. Well, you let me know when Jesus get back to you. You let me know. All right. But hey, the wisdom for just mankind, the justness. All right, the justice. I should say the justice of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi is what keeps us rising up. Not the folly of these wicked philosophies. And that's why I chuckled, Salakia, in the beginning when I was doing the opening. But it's imperative that we learn the proper Hebrew names. Well, that everybody learns the proper Hebrew names of the Father and the Son, Yahawah, Yahawashi. Because not only are the true names of the Lord going to help us, but also his knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. All right, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. So I pray and hope this lesson was edifying. Shalom.